Welcome to our deep dive today.
Okay.
We're going to be looking at minimalism,
All
and we're
right.
going to be using Fumio Sasaki's book,
Oh, cool.
Goodbye Things, The New Japanese Minimalism. And, minimalism kind of gets its reputation as just being, clean surfaces and empty closets.
Right.
But I think there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, I think Sasaki, he kind of frames it as a route to satisfaction and freedom.
Okay.
And he actually introduces a bunch of different people
Oh, interesting.
who embody these minimalist principles.
Okay, so, who are we talking about here?
So we got Sasaki himself. He lives in what he calls like a model minimalist apartment.
Mm,
And then there's Hiji, who was an early adopter.
okay.
And, he brings technology into the mix.
Interesting.
And then we have Ofumi and T.
Okay.
They're a couple, and they find comfort in, like, their shared minimalist lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yamasan, she applies minimalism to family life
Okay.
through what she calls color minimalism.
So it's interesting that all these people are approaching minimalism in different ways.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we have Kuta E2.
Yeah.
He's a global traveler who manages to, like, see the world with just one backpack.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine the freedom that comes with that.
I mean, just owning the bare essentials.
Totally.
Yeah, that's got to be amazing.
And I think the cool thing about these different examples is it shows that there's not just one way to be a minimalist.
Right.
It's about what works for you and your
Or
situation.
finding what works for you.
Yeah. And Sasaki himself, he's very honest about his own journey.
Oh, really?
He talks about how he used to be this dissatisfied maximalist,
Oh, wow.
overwhelmed by possessions, constantly comparing himself to others.
Yeah, keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing.
Totally. And thinking that, happiness was tied to all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us fall into that trap,
Yeah.
right? It's like you buy something new and you get that rush.
That little dopamine hit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so fleeting, and then you just want the next thing.
And Sasaki gets into that, he explains like why that happens.
Okay, how does he describe that?
Well, he talks about how like as we get used to new things,
Yeah.
our joy actually diminishes.
Makes sense.
And then we're just left wanting more.
Yeah.
He's got this funny story about trying to cheer up Kaisuke Honda.
Who's that?
He's a famous soccer player
Oh, okay.
after like a World Cup loss.
Okay.
And even though Honda's like, rich and successful, he's still bummed out.
So it's not about those external factors then?
Right.
Okay. It's not about the stuff. It's something deeper.
Interesting. So, like, is there something fundamentally wrong then with connecting happiness and possessions?
It makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
If even Honda's struggling, then what does that say about the rest of us?
Right, exactly.
And this brings us to a big point in the book.
Okay.
The purpose of things.
Okay.
They used to be for practical reasons.
Yeah, like tools and stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
But now it's all about showing off your worth,
Right.
right?
Like how much your worth is reflected in your things.
Exactly. And we end up being ruled by our stuff instead of the other way around.
Yeah, I've totally been there.
I think we all have at some point.
Have you ever, like, kept things just for show?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like to impress people?
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
Right.
You want people to think highly of you.
Yeah, you want that validation.
Exactly.
But Sasaki's saying that's not where it comes from.
Yeah, true validation, it has to come from within,
Okay,
not from your stuff.
that makes sense.
And this is where technology comes in.
Okay, how so?
Well, it can help and hurt our minimalist efforts.
Okay, I can see that.
On the one hand, our phones replace a ton of devices.
Right.
Cloud storage gets rid of physical clutter.
Yeah.
We got the sharing economy and subscription services.
Mm.
But on the other hand, there's so much temptation
Yeah.
with
Or,
technology.
like, what kind of temptation?
Constant information,
Yeah.
online shopping, new gadgets. Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in that cycle.
If you're not careful, you can end up with more stuff than ever.
Right.
So you got to find that balance.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It is.
So Sasaki has these 55 tips for letting go.
Oh, yeah.
And some of it really practical.
Like what?
Well, one that stood out to me was just get rid of something right now.
Really?
Yeah, just to get the ball rolling.
Okay.
He says you won't regret it.
Interesting.
And then he talks about knowing the difference between wants and needs,
That's a good one.
right?
It's easy to get those mixed up.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And he suggests taking pictures of things you're struggling to part with
Oh, that's smart.
so you can keep the memory without the clutter.
Makes sense.
And he says don't get hung up on the price you paid.
Oh, yeah. It's so easy to do that.
That's like sunk cost fallacy or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You feel like you have to keep it because you spent money on it,
Right.
but that can really hold you back.
These tips are great, but I think what's really interesting is how these ideas go
Yeah.
beyond just physical stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like a whole way of life.
Exactly. And that's what we'll get into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll look at how minimalism can change not just your home, but your relationships,
Oh, wow.
your digital life, your whole sense of self.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
It's going to be good.
All right, let's take a break and we'll come back to that.
So we've been talking about decluttering our physical spaces.
Yeah, getting rid of all that stuff.
Exactly. But now I think it's time to broaden our perspective.
Okay. Where are we going with this?
Well, Sasaki argues that it's not just about our homes.
It's about more than that.
Yeah, our mental space is just as important.
Okay.
Think about all the information we're bombarded with every day.
It's a lot.
News, social media, just constant data overload.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
And that's why he talks about information minimalism.
What's that?
It's about being intentional with what you consume, reducing news intake, limiting social media, setting boundaries.
Yeah, that makes sense, like creating some mental breathing room.
Exactly. It's like decluttering your mind.
Okay, so how do you actually do that?
Well, one way is to curate a minimalist wardrobe.
Oh, interesting.
You find a style that works for you,
Okay.
and you stick with it.
So you're not constantly making decisions about what to wear.
Exactly. It minimizes decision fatigue,
Yeah, I can see that.
and it frees up mental energy for more important things.
So it's not just about clothes, it's about simplifying choices in general.
Right, and that same philosophy can apply to our experiences as well.
Okay, how so?
Instead of always chasing new things,
Yeah.
what if we focused on creating memories?
Making memories.
Yeah, pursuing our passions, investing in personal growth.
That sounds a lot more fulfilling than just buying stuff.
It is, and there's actually research that shows experiences contribute to lasting happiness.
Oh, really?
Yeah, much more than material things.
Interesting.
And it brings us to another aspect, relationships.
Okay, how does minimalism apply to relationships?
Well, Sasaki talks about cultivating a few deep connections
Okay,
instead of spreading yourself thin across a wide network.
so quality over quantity.
Exactly. It's about nurturing the relationships that truly matter.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have you ever felt that pressure to maintain too many social connections?
Oh, totally. It can be exhausting.
Like you're constantly juggling obligation.
Right, and you can't be fully present with anyone.
Yeah, you end up feeling disconnected.
Exactly, and that's why this idea of relationship minimalism is so appealing.
It's about being intentional with your time and energy.
Yeah, and creating space for authenticity and genuine connection.
So by simplifying our external world,
Mm.
we create more space for what's truly important internally.
You got it. And that brings us to freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah, that sense of liberation that comes with letting go.
Okay.
Freedom from the pressure to keep up appearances.
Yeah.
Freedom to pursue your passions without being tied to a high-paying job.
And freedom to just be yourself
Exactly. Sasaki actually talks about how easy it was for him to move to a new apartment.
because he didn't have much stuff.
Right, he was unburdened by possessions.
So he can move freely.
And that's the beauty of minimalism. It's not about deprivation.
Okay.
It's about prioritizing what truly matters.
So you can live a more fulfilling life.
Exactly. And that brings us to the connection between minimalism and happiness.
Okay, I'm curious to hear about that.
Well, Sasaki believes that simplifying your life can reduce stress.
Yeah, that makes sense. Less stuff, less to worry about.
Right, and it allows you to focus on the present moment.
Okay.
He challenges the idea that happiness is something you achieve in the future.
Like when you finally get that new car or that promotion,
Exactly. He says happiness is a state of being.
a state of being.
Yeah, something you cultivate through your thoughts, actions, and choices.
Okay, so how do you actually cultivate happiness?
Well, one way is through gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah, appreciating what you have instead of focusing on what you lack.
That's a good point.
Sasaki introduces this Buddhist practice called the 5 reflections.
What's that?
It's a chant recited before meals to cultivate mindfulness.
Okay.
You reflect on the food you're about to eat, where it came from, the effort it took to produce it.
So you're appreciating the whole process.
Exactly, and it helps you develop a deeper sense of contentment.
That's beautiful.
It is, and I think that's what minimalism is all about.
Creating space for contentment.
Yes, by simplifying our outer lives, we create space for inner peace.
And that's where true happiness lies.
Exactly. It's not about the stuff, it's about how we choose to live.
This has been really insightful. I'm starting to see minimalism in a whole new light.
I'm glad to hear that, and there's even more to explore.
Oh, really? What else is there?
Well, Sasaki also delves into why minimalism is gaining popularity right now.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, he points to three main factors.
Okay, let's hear them. Yeah. All right, so we've been talking about decluttering our spaces and our digital lives and, even our
Yet
relationships.
simplifying it all.
But now I want to get into like the core of it all, like what's happening inside.
Yeah, that internal shift.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Sasaki does a great job of explaining how, when you simplify your outer world, it actually creates space for inner peace.
Okay.
It's like you're freeing up mental bandwidth.
Mental bandwidth.
Yeah, so you can focus on what truly matters.
So it's not just about having less stuff, it's about having more mental space.
Exactly. And that can lead to more clarity, focus, tranquility.
It's like all that mental clutter just disappears.
Yeah, all those to-do lists, the anxieties about keeping up with everyone else, the worry about not having enough.
And when that's gone, it opens up so much possibility.
New ideas, a deeper connection with yourself.
I like how Sasaki compares it to a computer's operating system.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like when it's overloaded with programs and files, it slows down.
It crashes, it can't function properly.
And minimalism is like streamlining that operating system.
Yeah, both physically and mentally.
So we can operate at our best.
Exactly. And have you ever heard of decision fatigue?
Yeah, I think so.
It's basically when you're faced with too many choices.
Oh, yeah. I definitely feel that sometimes.
And it drains your mental energy.
Like even simple things like what to wear or what to eat.
Right, and it's even worse in today's world with all the information and notifications.
It's like we're constantly bombarded with choices.
Minimalism helps create a sanctuary from all that.
A sanctuary.
Yeah, a place where you can reclaim your time and focus.
So you can actually think clearly.
Exactly, and when you create that space internally, you start to become more aware of your own values and passions.
You can actually hear yourself think.
Right. And that's where the real self-discovery begins.
And Sasaki connects this self-discovery to freedom.
Yes, freedom from material possessions, from societal expectations.
From all those external pressures.
Exactly. He talks about how easy it was for him to move to a new apartment after embracing minimalism.
Because he didn't have much to move.
Right, he was unburdened.
And that's true freedom, isn't it?
It is freedom to move through life with ease.
Freedom to pursue your passions.
To be who you truly are.
And that freedom is so closely tied to happiness.
Absolutely. Sasaki emphasizes that happiness is not a destination.
Oh?
It's not something you achieve, it's a state of being.
A state of being.
Yeah, and it comes from within.
So it's not about getting more stuff, it's about shifting your perspective.
Exactly. It's about gratitude, appreciation for the present moment.
And that's where the 5 reflections come in.
Yes, that beautiful practice of mindfulness.
Reciting that chant before meals really makes you appreciate the food and where it came from.
It connects you to the whole process.
And it cultivates contentment.
Exactly, and that's what minimalism ultimately leads to.
A more fulfilling and meaningful life.
And it's not just a coincidence that minimalism is gaining popularity right now.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, Sasaki points to three main factors.
Okay, what are they?
First, information and material overload.
Yeah, we're constantly bombarded with stuff.
Right. It's overwhelming.
Okay, what's the second factor?
Advancements in technology and services.
Okay, how does that play into it?
Well, it allows us to live with less.
Like our smartphones replace so many devices.
Exactly. And cloud storage eliminates the need for physical files.
We can access so much without actually owning it.
Right. And the third factor is the impact of natural disasters.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Sasaki talks about his experience during an earthquake in Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
And how his minimalist lifestyle made it easier to cope.
Because he didn't have as much to lose.
Exactly. And it made him realize that true security comes from within.
Not from material possessions.
Right. It's about adaptability, resilience, inner strength.
That's a powerful realization.
It is. And it makes you think about your own relationship with stuff.
Yeah. Does it weigh you down or does it set you free?
And that's what we hope you'll take away from this deep dive.
A new perspective on minimalism.
And maybe even some inspiration to simplify your own life.
To create space for what truly matters.
To find freedom and happiness in a world that's constantly pushing us towards more.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into minimalism.
We hope you found it insightful.
And we encourage you to explore these ideas further.
And see how they can transform your life.